ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste, my dear friends. This is second video on the topic of Approkshanubhuti, a wonderful book of Adi Shankracharya on Advaita Vedanta. This is a very good guiding book for sadhakas pursuing the sadhana of self-inquiry for self-realization and liberation. So I start the second video with stanza number 36. असंगः प्रसय प्रोक्तो बृहदारण्य के पिच अनंतमलशिलष्ट कथम शादेहकः पुमान. So also it is said in the Brihadaranyaka that the Purusha is completely unattached. How can this body wherein inhere innumerable impurities be the Purusha? The Purusha is completely unattached. This reference is to the following passages. The Purusha is not accompanied in the waking state by what he sees in dream, for is completely unattached to everything. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad chapter 4 stanza 3. Now stanza number 37. तत्रैव च समाख्यात स्वयं ज्योतिर्हि पुरुषः जड़ प्रकाशोय अयम कथम शादेहकः पुमान. There again it is clearly stated that the Purusha is self-illumined, so how can the body which is inert, insentient and illumined by an external agent be the Purusha? There again in the same Brihadaranyaka we have here in dream the Purusha is self-illumined. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad chapter 4 3.7. Stanza number 38. प्रोक्तो अपि कर्मकाण्डेन हवात्मा देहा दिवि लक्षणः नित्यश्च तत्फलं भुङ्क्ते देहापदा अंतरम. Moreover, the karma kanda also declares that the Atma is different from the body and permanent, as it endures even after the fall of the body and reaps the fruits of actions done in this life. Moreover, the Karma Kanda declares the Karma Kanda is that portion of the Veda which inculcates the performance of religious acts, sacrifices, and ceremonies, laying down in detail rules and regulations for the guidance of its votaries. The followers of the Karma Kanda do not believe in an Ishvara or God. Nevertheless, they believe in a permanent individual soul which is quite different from the body and which survives the destruction of the latter as a sport of apurva, the abiding result of karma. So not only the Jnana Kanda, the Upanishads, but the Karma Kanda also asserts that Atma is different from the body. Stanza number 39. लिंगम चाने कंसंयुक्तम चलम दृश्यम विकारी च अव्यापकमसद्रुवपम तत् कथम सयात पुमानियम. Even the subtle body consists of many parts and is unstable. It is also an object of perception, is changeable, limited, and non-existent by nature. So how can this be the Purusha? The subtle body, etc., it consists of 17 parts, viz. The intellect, mind, 5 organs of perception, 5 organs of action, and 5 vital force or 5 subtle elements. Stanza 40. एवं देहद्वा दन्ने आत्मा पुरुषः ईश्वर सर्वात्मा सर्वरूपश्च सर्वातीतो हम वह. The immutable Atma, the substratum of the ego, is thus different from these two bodies and is the Purusha. The Isvara, the Lord of all, the Self of all, it is present in every form and yet transcends them all. Stanza number 41. इत्या आत्म दे भागेन परपंच संयौ सत्यता यथोक्ता तर्कशास्त्रेण ततः किम पुरुषार्थता. Thus the enunciation of the difference between the Atma and the body has indirectly asserted, indeed after the manner of the Tarka Shastra, the reality of the phenomenal world, but what ends of human life are served thereby. Tarka Shastra, the science of logic, Nyaya, or treatises like Sankhya and Yoga, and those of the Lokayatikas, which mostly follow the method of inference in arriving at their respective conclusions. Here it specially refers to Sankhya, which with the mere help of Tarka logic tries to establish the final duality of Prakriti and Purusha, and in which Prakriti or the material principle that constitutes the phenomenal world is eternal and coexistent with Purusha, the conscious principle. What ends of human life are served? There are generally 4 ends of human life, viz. Dharma or performance of duty, Artha or attainment of worldly prosperity, Kama or satisfaction of desires, and Moksha or final liberation from the bondage of ignorance, of which the first 3 are but secondary as they are only helps to the last, which is the Sammam Bonam. But this last one, the liberation from the bondage of ignorance, will never be attained unless a person realizes non-duality and becomes one with it, and thus removes even the last vestige of duality from the mind. But the establishment of duality is only an obstacle to such a realization and drives persons away from the path of liberation. It therefore serves no real purpose in human life. But the object of showing the difference between Atma and the body is not to prove the reality of the body and thus establish the duality of Atma and the body, but only to meet the opponents who hold the view that this body is Atma. It will be shown in the following stanzas that there is no such thing as body, it is Atma that alone exists. Stanza 42. Itya Itya atam dehe bheden deha dehatam tatvam nivaritam idani de bhedasya havasatvam saput muchyate. Thus, the view that the body is the Atma has been denounced by the enunciation of the difference between the Atma and the body. Now is clearly stated the unreality of the difference between the two. The unreality of the difference, etc., that the body has no existence independent of the Atma, just as the waves do not exist independently of water. In fact, the Atma alone exists, and it is through ignorance that one sees it as appearing in the forms of the body and the like. Stanza number 43. चैतन्य सयीकृपत्वा देवद्वो युक्तो ने गृहीचित जीवत्वं च मर्षा गेयं रज्जो सर्पग्रहो यथा. No division in consciousness is admissible at any time, as it is always one and the same. Even the individuality of the jiva must be known as false, like the delusion of a snake in a rope. It is always one and the same. The contents of consciousness may vary, but consciousness as such remains always uniform, just as the light of the sun remains the same while illuminating various objects. Rajav Jnanat Akshane Naivoi Yadvadruhi Sarpini Bhati Tadvichitti Saksa Divakshakaren Kevala. As through the ignorance of the real nature of the rope, the very rope appears in an instant as a snake, so also does pure consciousness appear in the form of the phenomenal universe without undergoing any change. Without undergoing any change, when a rope appears as a snake, nobody can say that any change has been wrought upon the rope. Similarly, pure consciousness appears as the so-called material universe without undergoing any change whatsoever. Stanza number 45. Upadanam parpanch se ब्रह्मणोऽन्येन विद्यते तस्मात् सर्व परपंचो अयम ब्रह्मैवास्ति न चेतरतः. There exists no other material cause of this phenomenal universe except Brahma. Hence this whole universe is but Brahma and nothing else. This whole universe is but Brahma. Because the effect is never different from the cause, a pot is never different from the earth of which it is made. The names and forms that differentiate the effect from the cause are but conventional and are found non-existent when their nature is inquired into. Stanza 46. व्याप्य व्यापकता मिथ्या सर्व मात्मेति शासनात् इति ज्ञाते प्रेतत्वे भेदस्यावसरः कुतः. From such declaration of Shruti as all this is Atma, it follows that the idea of the pervaded and the pervading is illusory. This supreme truth being realized, where is the room for any distinction between the cause and the effect? From such declaration, it refers to the passage These Brahmins and Kshatriyas, these Lokas, regions, gods, Vedas and beings, in short, everything is this Atman. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza 57. Stanza 47. श्रुता निवारितं नूनं नानातवं सौमुखेन हि कथं भासो भवेदन्ये सिथते चादवयकारणे. Certainly the Shruti has directly denied manifoldness in Brahma, the non-dual cause being an established fact. How could the phenomenal universe be different from it? The Shruti has directly, etc. The Shruti passage runs as follows. After hearing from a competent teacher, one should realize with the help of a pure mind that there is no manifoldness in this Brahma. The non-dual cause being an established fact, etc. The positing of the non-dual Brahma as the final reality by the Shruti cuts at the root of all causality. For a cause always presupposes an effect which it produces and which is evidently different from it in some respect or other. But when there is only one, how is it possible for a second thing, an effect, to come into existence? The truth is that the non-dual Brahma or Atma never causes anything. It is through ignorance that one sees this world and thinks of Brahma as its cause. Stanza number 48. दोषो अपि विहित श्रुत्या मृत्यो मृत्युं स गच्छति इह पश्यति नानातवं maya vanchito naraha. Moreover, the Shruti has condemned the belief in verity in the words. The person who, being deceived by Maya, sees verity in this Brahma goes from death to death. Goes from death to death means is born and dies again and again. The reference is to such Shruti text as he who sees verity in this, that is Brahma, passes from death to death. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza 4.19. In other words, unless a person realizes the non-dual Atma, which is evidently without birth and death, there is no escape for him from the cycle of rebirth. Stanza number 49. ब्रह्मणे सर्वभूतानि जायन्ते परमात्मनः तस्मादेतानि ब्रह्मैव bhavanti tavdharyet. Inasmuch as all beings are born of Brahma, the Supreme Atma, they must be understood to be verily Brahma. All beings are born of Brahma. The reference here is to such Shruti passages as that is Brahma, where from all these beings are born, etc. Taittiriya Upanishad, chapter 4, stanza number 50. Dharmayu Sravanamani Rupani Vividhani Cha Karmane Api Samagrani Vibhartiti Shruti Shrutir Jagau. The Shruti has clearly declared that Brahma alone is the substratum of all varieties of names, forms, and actions. Brahma alone is the substratum, just as a rope is the substratum of the illusion of a snake and the like. So Brahma is the substratum of all names, forms, and actions, though these are but illusory. For even an illusion requires a substratum for its appearance. Stanza 51. सुवर्ण जायमानस्य सुवर्णत्वं च शाश्वतं ब्रह्मणो जायमानस्य ब्रह्मत्वं च तथा भवेत्. Just as a thing made of gold ever has the nature of gold, so also a being born of Brahma has always the nature of Brahma. Stanza 52. स्वल्पमेयन्त्रं कृत्वा जीवातं परमात्मनो यः संतिष्ठि मूढ़ात्मा भयं तस्याभिभाषितम्. Fear is attributed to the ignorant one who rests after making even the slightest distinction between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Fear has its root in duality and imperfection and can be overcome by him alone who realizes non-duality and thus attains to perfection. For such a person there is none to be afraid of and nothing to be gained or lost. Who rests, etc. The Shruti text runs as follows. When he, the ignorant one, takes the slightest difference in it, Brahmana, there is fear for him. This is from Taittiriya Upanishad, chapter 2, stanza 7. Stanza number 53. Yatra jnana bhavavedah तमित्र सत्र पश्यति आत्म तवेन यदा सर्वं नेत्र सत्रतः चाणवपि. When duality appears through ignorance, one sees another, but when everything becomes identified with the Atma, one does not perceive another even in the least. When duality, etc. This stanza gives the substance of the following passage from the Shruti. For when there is duality, as it were, one sees another, smells another, etc. But when everything has become one's own self, how can one see another, smell another, etc.? Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 4, 5.15. Stanza 54. Yasmin sarvani bhutani hayattam taven vijanatah ne vai tassai bhaven moho ne cha shoko divyatah. In that state, when one realizes all is identified with the Atma, there arises neither delusion nor sorrow, in consequence of the absence of duality. In that state, etc., it refers to the following Shruti text. When a person realizes all beings to be his very self, where is there any delusion or sorrow for such a sphere of unity? Upanishad, chapter 7, stanza 55. Ayamatma hi brahmayibai sarvatam katyaha sitita iti nirdvaritum shrutva brihadarane sansataya. The Shruti in the form of the Brihadaranyaka has declared that this Atma, which is the self of all, is verily Brahma. The Shruti, etc. The text is this Atma is Brahma, etc. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 2, stanza 5.19. Stanza 56. Anubhuto payam अनुभूतोपेयं लोको व्यवहार अक्ष्मो अपि सनः ऐस असद्भूतो भू ऐस असद्भूतो भूपो यथा स्वप्नः उत्तर अक्षण बाधते. This world, though an object of our daily experience and serving all practical purposes, is like the dream world of the nature of non-existence inasmuch as it is contradicted the next moment. This world, etc., we cannot call a thing sat ever existent merely because it is experienced and has some pragmatic value. In dream we experience things which are valid so long as the dream lasts, but as soon as we awake they disappear as they never existed. So also the experience of our waking states, which are so full of meaning to us, are negated as soon as we enter into dream or deep sleep. This world of waking experience, therefore, is also in the same category of existence as the dream world. Stanza 57. स्वप्नो जागरणे लीकः स्वप्नेऽपि जागरो न हि दवमेव लये नास्ति लयो अपि ह्युम्योर्नचः. The dream experience is unreal in waking, whereas the waking experience is absent in dream. Both, however, are non-existent in deep sleep, which again is not experienced in either the dream, etc. Here the author illustrates the preceding sloka by showing the unreality of the three states, avasthatraya, on account of their mutual contradiction. Stanza number 58. त्रिमेवं भवेनीं मिथ्या गुणत्रयविनिर्मितम् अस्य दृष्टा गुणातीतो नित्यो हयकेशिदात्मकः. Thus all the three states are unreal, inasmuch as they are the creation of the three gunas, but their witness, the reality behind them, is beyond all gunas, eternal one, and is consciousness itself. The three states are unreal, etc. This world of our daily experience, comprising these three states, is produced by the permutation and combination of the three gunas, components of Prakriti, or the primeval substance which sattva, rajas and tamas. But whatever is a compound must disintegrate and be destroyed. This world being a compound is thus foredoomed to destruction, and so it is unreal, as reality implies indestructibility. Here what has been put forward as a mere proposition in Sloka 56 is conclusively proved, viz. that this world, though experienced, is